book of Leviticus, chapter 27, from the Sunday School Bible, 1445 BC. Copyright, the Sunday School Bible, LLC, 2025. All rights reserved. Making a vow to God. The Lord, Yahweh, said to Moses, "Speak to the children of Israel Jacob, and say to them, when a person makes a single or special vow to dedicate a person to the Lord, Yahweh, that person must be given according to the person's valuation." Note, in Leviticus 27, verse 2, the King James Version uses the phrase single vow. However, to highlight the difference between this vow and all other vows, we will examine the words used in the original Hebrew Bible, Masoretic text, the context and the culture and legal implications of the verse, with a particular focus on the meaning of the phrase within the conventional framework of Leviticus. The Hebrew phrase used, yapli nader, which refers to a voluntary or solemn promise made to God, often involving an obligation to offer something, like a sacrifice, service, or payment, to fulfill a religious commitment. Vows were binding in ancient Israel and carried spiritual and legal weight. The word yapli, from the root pala, meaning to be distinct, to be wonderful, or to set apart. This word suggests making a vow that is distinct or extraordinary, often translated as special or singular, to indicate a special type of vow with unique conditions. The phrase yapli nader suggests a particular kind of vow, one that stands out due to its nature or purpose. In this context, it refers to a vow specifically involving the dedication of a person to the Lord, distinguishing it from other types of vows. End of note. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. From 20 to 60 years old, for a male, your estimation will be 20 ounces of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. For a female, your estimation will be 12 ounces of silver. From 5 to 20 years old, for a male, your estimation will be 8 ounces of silver. For a female, your estimation will be 4 ounces of silver. From 1 month to 5 years old, for a male, your estimation will be 2 ounces of silver. And for a female, your estimation will be 1.2 ounces of silver. From 60 years old and above, for a male, your estimation will be 6 ounces of silver, and for a female, your estimation will be 4 ounces of silver. Someone too poor to pay. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. If someone is too poor to pay your estimation, then they will present themselves before the priest. The priest will value them according to their ability, and the priest will assign a value based on what they can afford. Vows involving animal offerings. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. If someone brings an animal accepted as an offering to the Lord, all that any man gives to the Lord will be holy. The person making the vow will not exchange the vowed animal, nor substitute the vowed animal. A good animal for a bad animal, or a bad animal for a good animal. Note, in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 10, the King James Version uses the words alter and change. However, the original Hebrew Bible, Masoretic text, uses both halap and mur to describe replacing one animal with another. The halap may emphasize the act of exchanging or swapping, potentially implying a change in value, while mur focuses on substitution, replacing with an equivalent or an alternative. The use of both verbs in the same verse strengthens the prohibition, covering all forms of replacement to ensure the vowed animal remains dedicated to the Lord. Because the term alter can imply modifying or transforming the commitment, but is less specific than exchange in conveying the act of swapping one animal for another, the SSB will use the words exchange and substitute to enhance clarity in this verse. End of note. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. If the person making the vow exchanges or substitutes the vowed animal, then both animals will be holy. If it is any unclean animal that cannot be offered as a sacrifice to the Lord, then the person making the vow will present the animal before the priest. The priest will assess the animal's value, whether the animal is good or bad. Whatever the priest decides is final. But if the person making the vow wants to redeem or buy back the animal, then the person will add 20% to the estimation. Dedicating a house to God. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. When the person sanctifies their house to be holy to the Lord, the priest will assess the house's value, whether the house is good or bad. Whatever the priest decides is final. If the person who sanctified their house wants to redeem or buy back their house, then they will add 20% to the set value, and it will be theirs. Dedicating land to God. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. If a person sanctifies part of their land as a gift to the Lord, its value will be based on the amount of seed it can produce. A plot of land sown with about 7.5 bushels of barley seed will be valued at about 20 ounces of silver. If a person sanctifies their field starting from the year of Jubilee, the assessment value will stand. Note, in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 17, the King James Version and Hebrew text use the phrase, from the year of Jubilee. To clarify, this verse refers to a specific situation. When the land is dedicated starting from the year of Jubilee, this does not necessarily mean the dedication occurs during the Jubilee year itself, when agriculture activity is limited and land reverts back. Instead, it probably indicates dedicating the land at the beginning of the new Jubilee cycle, meaning the year immediately after the Jubilee, when the land is again under the vow-making control after reversion. The valuation remains at the full amount, which means the priest assessment is used without reduction because the land can be used for the entire 50-year period until the next Jubilee. End of note. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. But if a person sanctifies their field after the Jubilee, then the priest will calculate the price for them according to the years that remain until the next year of Jubilee, and it will be deducted from their evaluation. If the person who sanctified the field wants to redeem or buy the field back, then they will add 20% to the evaluation, and it will belong to them. If the person does not redeem or buy back the field, or if the person sold the field to another person, it will not be redeemed anymore. Note, in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 18, the King James Version and the Hebrew text use the phrase, after the year of Jubilee. To clarify, however, the Hebrew preposition nahar, meaning after, indicates that the dedication occurs sometime after the Jubilee year, meaning it could be in any of the years following the Jubilee, such as year 2, 3, or later in the 50-year cycle. If the land is dedicated after the Jubilee, the priest calculates the value based on the years remaining until the next Jubilee. End of note. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. But when the land is returned to its original owner in the year of Jubilee, it will be holy to the Lord Yahweh, as a field devoted. The possession thereof will be the priest's. Note, to clarify, in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 21, it describes what happens to a vowed field if the vow maker does not redeem it before the Jubilee year. Let's review the relevant verses. Leviticus chapter 27, verse 16 through 18 explains how a vowed field is valued based on seed yield and adjusted for the years left until the Jubilee. Leviticus chapter 27, verse 19 states that the vow maker can redeem or buy back the field by paying its calculated value plus 20%, thereby keeping ownership. Leviticus chapter 27, verse 20 notes that if the vow maker sells the field to someone else and does not redeem it, it cannot be reclaimed during the Jubilee. Leviticus chapter 27, verse 21 states that if the field remains unredeemed, whether it is sold or not, the field becomes permanently dedicated to the Lord during the Jubilee and is transferred to the priests. Why this matters? The vow creates a sacred obligation. Failing to redeem the field means the vow maker forfeits it, and the sanctuary, through the priests, gains permanent ownership, underlining the seriousness of vows. Instead of returning to the vow maker, as land normally would in the Jubilee, the field is dedicated forever to the Lord and given to the priests as their possession. This arrangement ensures the vow benefits the sanctuary and penalizes the vow maker for not fulfilling it through redemption. The confusion comes from the technical terms and the Jubilee's role, but essentially the verse means the unredeemed field is forfeited to the priesthood in the Jubilee year, becoming sacred property forever. End of note. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. If a person sanctifies to the Lord, Yahweh, a field they have purchased, which is not part of their family's property, then the priest will calculate the value of the field based on the years remaining until the next Jubilee, and the person will pay the amount on that day as a holy offering to the Lord Yahweh. In the year of Jubilee, the field will be returned to the person from whom it was bought, the one who holds the original ownership of the land. All evaluations will be according to the shekel of the sanctuary, 0.4 ounces of silver per shekel. Firstborn animals. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. No one will sanctify a firstborn animal, clean animal, whether it is an ox or sheep, because all firstborn animals already belong to the Lord Yahweh. This references Exodus chapter 13, verse 2, and Exodus chapter 13, verse 12 through 13. If it is an unclean animal, then the person can redeem it, buy it back, according to your estimation, and you will add 20% to it. If it is not redeemed, then it will be sold according to your estimation. Note, in Leviticus chapter 27, verse 26, it refers to clean animals, and Leviticus chapter 27, verse 27 refers to unclean animals. Unclean animals cannot be offered on the altar. They must either be redeemed, bought back, by adding 20% or 1/5 to the evaluation or sold at its valuation. End of note. Things permanently dedicated to God. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. However, no devoted thing that a person devotes to the Lord, Yahweh, from all that belongs to them, whether a man, animal, or the field of their possession, will be sold or will be redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy to the Lord, Yahweh. No person devoted to destruction can be redeemed. They must be put to death. Tithe. The Lord, Yahweh, continued speaking to Moses. All the tithes of the land, whether crops of the field or fruit of the tree, is the Lord's, Yahweh's. It is holy to the Lord, Yahweh. If a person wants to redeem or buy back any of their tithes, they will add 20% to it. And concerning the tithe of the herd, cattle, and the flock, sheep or goats, every 10th animal that passes under the shepherd's rod will be holy to the Lord Yahweh. The owner of the animal, who is tithing, will not examine the animal as to whether it is good or bad, neither will they change the animal. If the owner changes the animal at all, then both the original animal and the substitute animal will be holy to the Lord Yahweh and cannot be redeemed or bought back. These are the commandments which the Lord Yahweh commanded Moses for the children of Israel Jacob on Mount Sinai.